right, so afternoon. Caitlin and I have just jumped on here to have a bit of a chat about exercise and MS and other neurological conditions. So I am just going to be asking Caitlin some questions. She's going to answer me and we'll have a bit of a chat. If anyone has any questions, feel free just to pop it in the comment section and we'll either try and get to a couple at the end here or we'll get back to another format within the couple of days. So Caitlin, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about what your role is at MS Plus?
Yeah, I'm Caitlin as well. I'm an exercise physiologist here at MS Plus, currently based at the Footscray site, which we're in the process of getting built, which is really exciting. But I also just have a really good passion for and interest in neurological conditions and working with people with neurological conditions.
Yeah, I should say I'm an exercise physiologist by background too, so I'm equally excited. But so I guess if we're talking about exercise physiologists, what are they and how can they help?
Yeah, I guess this is one of my most popular questions, is that we're essentially a member of the allied health team who specialise in the prescription of exercise. That can be for neuro conditions, chronic musculoskeletal conditions. We essentially can work with anyone basically, which is really awesome. We use an evidence-based practice to help guide our selection of exercises that have been researched and highlighted as significant or for specialized conditions or anything like that. Again, it looks at also like any limitations, imbalances, anything like that. So we essentially use exercise as a form of medicine, as we kind of like to say.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I guess then the kind of follow-up question from that is what someone would like. What does an exercise physiology session look like, or what could someone expect from a session with an exercise physiologist or with you?
Yeah, for sure. I guess there are a few different ways that someone might work with an exercise physiologist depending on their goals and their needs. An exercise physiologist can assess you and then develop an exercise program essentially. So that can be done either home, in local gym, or in the clinic that we are currently working at. It could be also for a short period of time or a long period of time as well, just to ensure that you have the support that you need to execute the program safely and effectively and to hopefully achieve those goals. So when you come and first see an exercise physiologist, we initially start with that initial consultation. That will include, I guess, a conversation about you, the symptoms, the things that you like, just getting a really good idea of you so that we can then use the objective measures that we then find to make it more specific to you. Again, those objective measures include things like assessing your strength, looking at your walking capabilities, looking at your balance. Again, just to be as specific as possible that we can to what you are after and what your goals are. We then
and I guess
move on.
those, sorry, Caitlin, those measurements that you're taking, they're being used, I guess, as a baseline so that you can make sure that program's really targeted, which is why it's great for someone to come to you because they're going to get that targeted program. But then also that's going to be used, isn't it, for subsequent sessions. So we can, monitor any change over 3, 6 months, a year's time. And you can have that information both as a clinician, so you know what to do with the participant, but also as a participant to have that feedback, I guess, which is so important.
Yeah. And the good thing about those objective measures as well is that they are often researched and backed with evidence as well. So we're not only using evidence for exercise prescription, but we're also using evidence to make sure that our assessments and all that information that we are collecting have been ticked off and been used as appropriate measures, which is really cool. We also then move on to I guess, one-on-one sessions, group sessions, or just your home program as well. So being able to have a couple options is super exciting. Other things that EPs do as well is we also work alongside physios, OTs, all that kind of stuff. And they will they'll be used to, I guess, have those prescription of mobility aids, diagnose injuries, or work with more complex symptoms such as pain and spasticity.
Yeah. And there can be overlaps between different clinicians as well. But I guess, the different roles, or the different clinicians working to address different goals, and are there for different purposes. So I guess when we're kind of working together, you get really great outcomes. Yeah, awesome. So I guess if we're kind of starting off with some of those really common questions that we get from participants or people wanting to know about how to get and what an exercise program should look like for them. A lot of people will know that exercise is good for them. That generally tends to be well known. But I guess a lot of people want to know, well, how much do I have to do? So I guess what would the research say in terms of the frequency and the type of exercise that someone should be doing with a neurological condition?
Yeah, 100%. And it's often, I guess, one of the more important considerations, because we want it to be tailored to you and your fitness levels. So it's often based off that, but we usually use the Australian Physical Activity Guidelines as a really nice base for our prescription, but then modify it to what you are after in regards to your goals, your fitness levels, your capabilities, everything like that. So those guidelines essentially are our base to then, I guess, work on top of. It also, I guess, is used for that symptom management as well. So using those guidelines to aid in helping with those symptom management and achieve that overall health and well-being that I guess everyone is kind of after. When we're looking at, I guess, more neurological conditions in particular, there's a few things that we do try to address. So things such as balance, strength, flexibility, cardiovascular training, and we all use them to, I guess, address those goals. So looking at strength, we're looking at more resistance training. That can be 2 to 3 days a week, and that is looking at building that strength, using muscles, using everything like that to sort of build a really nice strength base.
So that could be that, like, strength training could be things like machine work in a gym where you might have like a leg press or a machine like that, or it could be at home with like weights, hand weights or body weights, lots of different ways. So that strength training, focusing on strengthening the muscles in a particular movement. Go on.
Then our next one, I guess, is looking at that balance and neuromotor. So neuromotor meaning a bit more neurospecific. So that may mean gait training, that may mean more specific to balance, or looking at dexterity, things like that. So dexterity meaning your ability to use your hands and everything like that. They're recommended for 3 to 6 days a week. Cardiovascular training is, I guess, looking at 2 to 3 days a week. So that means getting that heart rate up, trying to get that, I guess, that heavy breathing, more working on trying to get that heart rate raised, looking at that for 2 to 3 days a week. And that, again, includes things like walking, running, swimming, all those kind of more aerobic and cardiovascular types of exercises. And then flexibility daily. And those all can be combined into, I guess, 3 sessions in a week or smaller programs throughout each day.
And so I think, like, to summarize, because obviously, it's a lot of information, but I guess we are referring to the research, so that's why it kind of is a little bit. But I guess kind of just as a quick summary, so there's like the general healthy guidelines, which is still what we look to for people with a neurological condition. But I guess it's about tailoring it, about how we can get someone to be able to meet those guidelines with their symptoms, with any considerations that we need to make for that participant. So you've got the strength training 2 to 3 days a week, the balance or neuromotor training 3 to 6 days a week, cardiovascular 2 to 3 days a week, and flexibility 7 days a week. That doesn't have to be, that's more days than you have in the week. So I guess it's about combining it. So you might have a session that you might do at the gym or at home, or that might involve balance training, strength training, and a little bit of cardio where you're getting your heart rate up. It has to be feasible for you. It has to be practical for you to implement. But I guess that's the research guidelines. But overall, and the most important thing every time, is just what's going to be most appropriate for the participant.
Yeah.
Awesome, Caitlin. I guess the next one, so if we know how much we should be doing, we know what types of things we should probably be doing. I guess the next thing is like, how do we actually start implementing a program? So motivation can be really hard for anyone when it comes to exercise. But I think especially when you have a chronic condition, so how can we start to build healthy habits and motivation around exercise?
Yeah, 100%. Motivation in myself is like always difficult anyway. So doing it overall is always a tough thing. A few things I've worked for some people that I've worked with previously are things such as implementing them into your spare time. So whether that be waiting for the kettle to boil or when you're brushing your teeth. So I would often do calf raises when I'm brushing my teeth, or if the water's boiling, I'll do like push-ups on the bench
Oh
to
my gosh,
try it.
that's so good.
Just trying to like get myself to do some movement,
Yes.
and that often then leads into a nice healthy habit of, oh, I may as well just do a little bit extra while I'm here.
It's like a trigger. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Creating a routine around exercise. So another thing that I myself do, and I know other people do, is actually putting it into your calendar, setting reminders, making sure that it is in your schedule so that you know that that is your elected time for exercise. So that is something that has always been super beneficial. Exercising with friends, family, and letting them be your, again, moral support, but also your reason to go and exercise. Because if they're going, oh, I may as well go as well, kind of thing. So getting them to drag you along, or you dragging them along, is going to be one way to help that motivation keep going.
And making it more fun as well, of course, which makes it more
absolutely.
likely that you're going to get it done.
Yeah, like that social aspect of it as well. It's no longer just physical, it's also that social aspect, which is quite cool. Placing any exercises. So if you get given exercises on a sheet of paper or anything like that, putting them in a location that is easily visible. So whether that be on the fridge whenever you're in the kitchen, or if you're regularly in the lounge room, having it on the coffee table. So it's like just a visual reminder to go, oh, yep, I need to go do these now. And you can do them while you're, again, watching a TV show or listening to a podcast or listening to music, something that you enjoy doing while doing your exercises. And I guess making exercise something that you enjoy. So whether that's dancing, whether that be running, strength training, making it what you want to do, because then you're going to be more likely to want to do it. And I guess like the last one, I guess if you're coming and seeing an EP or a PT or something like that, find someone that you like and someone that you like, because you're just going to want to go and continue to see them. Because if you've got a good relationship and a good rapport, you're going to want to keep going. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like those ones. I guess, it's hard to kind of emphasize the importance of finding something that you enjoy doing or finding someone that you enjoy either working with from like a clinician or like a family or a friend member, because at the end of the day, these are like long-term healthy habits that we want to be creating. So if it's not something that, if you hate the idea of doing the exercise every time you do it, like, it's not going to be practical for you to implement long term. Yeah, awesome, Caitlin. How about, if we start to think about symptoms, because that's another one, a lot of clients will talk about some of the barriers to exercise for them. So in particular, fatigue is a big one. So many of our participants do kind of talk about fatigue as a symptom to their condition. And so how could exercise help with fatigue, and how might someone exercise if they do have limited energy?
Yeah, 100%. There's significant evidence that exercise can effectively manage fatigue, which is super exciting. So I guess there's a couple different ways that we can go about it. So firstly, using that cardiovascular exercise that we explained previously has been shown to reduce that perceived level of fatigue. So perceived meaning, I guess, what you kind of are experiencing versus like how you may actually be feeling. So as long as what you're feeling is like, that's what you're kind of looking at when you're looking at this.
Right. So like an example would be if you were like, how tired are you out of 0 to 10? And someone reported 7, but over time with exercise, you ask them the same question again, and maybe they're feeling like on a 4. Yeah. 4 out of 10. Yeah. Yeah.
So using that cardiovascular to, I guess, address that, 7-4 drop that we're trying to achieve, it can be completed by doing that continuous either running or walking, rowing, any type of, I guess, long continuous forms of exercise. And that can start off with genuinely 10 minutes. 10 minutes has been fine, and then hopefully building up from there. So if you can go for a 10-minute walk, that's going to be super beneficial to just your fatigue management. Another way about it and being a bit more specific is looking at that high intensity interval training, or HIIT training as you may know it as. Is a really good way of managing that fatigue, because you can complete, I guess, really big bursts of cardiovascular or resistance training like exercise, and then you have the equal amount of rest, or a rest period related to that. So example being, you work for 30 seconds of like jogging on the spot, doing squats, anything like that, and then you have a 30-second rest period. And that is also just been seen as super beneficial with lots of evidence behind it. You can also combine aerobic and resistance training, as Caitlin explained before, with, doing, 10 minutes of cardio at the start of your session, and then doing, 30 minutes of resistance training at the end of your session. So combining two together has been seen as beneficial for that perceived level. And also, if you have exercises given by someone like a physio or an EP, and you have, say, 5 exercises, you can do 2 exercises in the morning, 1 in the middle of the day, and then 2 at the end of the day. So spacing that out also manages that fatigue quite nicely.
Yeah. And I think, I'm just listening to you talk about some of these things. And if anyone's on here listening and going, oh, I don't really, either the HIIT training's really confusing that Caitlin was kind of just talking about, or not sure how to, I guess, combine an exercise program to manage the fatigue, or is finding fatigue as being a significant barrier to being able to exercise and do things they want to do. That's a really great example where a physio or an exercise physiologist would be so valuable to be able to sit with the person and really have an individualized approach of how to plan and what a treatment plan could look like to be able to address that fatigue. And like you said, we know that the evidence is there that exercise does help with fatigue. It's just about implementing a plan that is reasonable with those levels of fatigue, or that how tired that participant is. So
yeah.
Awesome. And another common symptom, I guess, we get a lot of participants speak to us about is muscle weakness. And that's quite common with our participants as well. So I guess the question is that can someone access an exercise physiology service if they have a lot of muscle weakness, or if they're, for example, in a wheelchair, or they have trouble mobilizing?
Yeah, 100%. So exercise physiology is open to everyone, and that's like the exciting part. Like, there's no limitations. Our specialised gyms in Lidcombe in New South Wales and in Footscray here in Victoria are all designed to be available and accessible to everyone despite their disability level. When working in the gym, we often prioritize safety. So safety is like our big thing here. We always try to make sure that we are standing close, we're spotting, or we're using the rails, which is always highly recommended whenever doing any type of balance exercise. And we often coach and cue ways to be safe and to be a bit more balanced, or to use your strength in certain ways. So often feedback is one thing that we like to use, especially with more reduced strength levels.
And I think, sorry, also just on that safety element, I think it's so important, because it's not just about like us feeling like you're safe. I guess it's for the participant to feel safe when they exercise, so that they can feel that they can push themselves in an environment where they do feel comfortable and safe. That's
having that confidence that they're going to be okay doing an exercise, I guess, is what we try to make sure that everyone kind of has, which is what we really try to make in our kind of setting. I guess when it comes to more muscle weakness, and I guess looking at like ability to walk and things like that, we try to work on the goals that you're relating to. So if your goal is to increase your walking capacity, we'll be looking at, training your gait. We'll be looking at strengthening the musculature around the areas that, help with that walking capacity. So that may be hamstrings, glutes, quads, wherever it's kind of needed, we'll be working in that area to help strengthen that and therefore increase that capacity. Same if they're in a wheelchair or someone's in a wheelchair, we'll use exercises to base around what your goals are. So again, if your goal is to be able to grab something off the floor and pick something off the floor, we work with exercises such as, lateral and forward leans, or working on your core and your shoulders to be able to increase your capacity to complete that movement. So making it as specific to the movement and the goal as possible.
Yeah, exactly right. So then, rather than if you have an area of weakness, I guess it just becomes a focus for us in relation to your goals, in what we need to do or what exercises you need to do, to target that weakness. Awesome. All right. So you talked a couple of times, you brought up a couple of times there, I guess, goals. And, it's so important to have a goal when you're setting out with an exercise program, and to be able to have, not just goals, but how you're going to be able to measure them and how you're going to be able to track success, or, adjust an exercise program based on, how you're going. So how could someone could you talk a little bit about goals and how one might develop some goals to keep on track?
Yeah, 100%. So as an EP and more in an exercise perspective, but also in lots of different settings, SMART goals are the way we go about looking at, I guess, creating really, really effective goals for exercise prescription. SMART goals is acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So specific meaning we want to ensure that it's not necessarily a broad goal, but it being a more direct goal. So not just being like, I want to improve my fitness. It's no, we want to make it a little bit more specific to one kind of thing.
I think a lot of people have that. I want to be healthier, or I want to be fitter. But that the broader that you make it, the harder it is to achieve. So you want to think about if you can make it as narrow and specific, and then it's easier for you to know what success looks like, how you achieved the goal that you wanted to.
Yep. And I guess that then also comes in with measurable, because if you don't have something that you can measure it by, how do you know if you've achieved it? So having an outcome measure or something that you can measure it by. So again, looking at like weight or walking capacity, it's something like, I want to be able to lose 5 kilos, or I want to be able to increase my walking capacity to 10 meters. So having something that you can measure it by is something that's shows that you've been able to achieve that goal. And I guess the next one is achievable with A. And again, it's, you want to be able to be realistic when you're achieving goals. And if you're making something way out of the water, that's not something that you can actually achieve, you're not going to be feeling very motivated to continue doing that exercise. So if you can be making those goals achievable and like you making sure that you can actually reach them is super important when you're trying to make really cool goals.
And I think like it could be that you have a longer term goal that's a bigger goal that might be, you're not sure if it's achievable at the moment, but then what would it look down to break that up? If you wanted to walk 2 kilometers, we don't know if that's possible at the moment, but let's try by doing, a goal of 500 meters in this time period, and then a longer, so having it, you can still have this big longer term goal, but having these shorter kind of markers to meet on the way. Awesome.
Yeah, that short, mid, and long term goal is something that we like looking at as well. So having them broken down to be able to achieve that long term. Relevant is the next one, and it's again just making it as specific and relevant to what you actually want to achieve. So is it actually specific, and is it important to what you want to achieve? This is relevant. And then timely is again just setting a time frame. You want to make sure that there's a nice set time frame, so hopefully that you can work hard and you can build that capacity within that set time frame.
Yeah. And I think the final one is just making sure, I guess, you write it down, that you've got somewhere so you remember what your goal is in 3 months' time, and you can compare. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds good. So That's great, Caitlin. I guess we've spoken a few times about, the value in accessing an actual, exercise physiology service. So how could you tell us how we can access the MS plus exercise physiology service?
Yeah, for sure. Through MS, we actually go through MS Connect. So that is how we be able to get all of our referrals and all of our information sent through. There's the option of, I guess, when you do connect with MS Connect, there's the option of face-to-face services here in Sydney and Melbourne. There's also the option of telehealth and home visits as well. So a couple different ways to access it. I guess, and with that as well, when it comes to those face-to-face, there's the option of one-on-one and group services too. So MS Connect is where to go.
MS Connect, and I think as well, you don't have to be, certain that you know exactly what you want if you're calling MS Connect too. If you kind of call up and you say, I'm not sure, I want to chat to someone, we've got people that can have a chat to you about the different services. Yeah. So you can get more information, have an idea if it's something that's appropriate or suitable or, what you're looking for, and we can go from there. So I guess kind of like wrapping up, what, I guess you're an exercise physiologist. You've been working with clients for a little while now. So what do you love about the work that you do?
Yeah, I guess I have like a couple points that I always like to say in regards to why I love doing what I'm doing. And I love working within neuro rehab because I love being able to see changes that are super valuable within someone's life. So the capacity of, someone being able to just reach out and grab something, that is just something that you don't get to see in any other setting other than working within neuro rehab. And I love being able to have that option and that availability to help someone be able to do that. I also love being able to see those changes being made that have such a positive impact on someone's day-to-day life. It's rewarding, and I get to build that rapport with these clients and help them be able to achieve that small change that can mean so much to them on their exercise journey and just on their journey in general, which I think is why I love doing what I'm doing so much.
Oh, that's nice. I like that, Caitlin. And I guess, again, because I'm enjoying hearing the stories from you, what about a rewarding moment? Can you tell me about like a rewarding moment from working with a client?
Yeah, I was told recently that I have enabled someone to learn more about their condition and to learn more about exercise and to be more confident in their ability to exercise as well, but still have fun and to still have a good relationship with like their clinician, with their health professional. And I think it really stuck with me because that's my aim. I try to make my sessions fun. I try to build that rapport, but still give them that education and that information to be able to do exercise. And I was really, really thankful for like that comment. And I guess another one from a client as well was that I've helped them feel good and be more positive about their MS. And I guess I was really humbled and excited that, I've only been seeing this person only really for a relatively short time, and to be able to have that impact quite quickly was really nice. So.
Oh, that's great. I love that. I love hearing that. And I think, you and our exercise physiology team at MS Plus do some amazing work with participants and are so passionate. So thanks, Caitlin. And thanks for answering questions today. So I just had a look and there doesn't seem to be any comments at the moment. So I think what we'll do is we'll just track the comments, see if anything comes up, and we can get back to any questions that you have. Otherwise, direct any calls or questions to MS Connect as well, and one of us will answer. But thanks, Caitlin, and thanks anyone for joining live. See ya.
Bye.